Once Axe is in, he is in. He is going to be stuck there. He's going to get beat up. And that's where I think Fúria Jovem now, they need to really shore up their lineup when it comes into their physical damage. Because right now, they don't have that sort of catalyst where if this is going to be an Axe core, they need someone to now punish him if he does overextend in these team fights. Because Fúria Jovem have a really solid lineup for team fighting right now. The Mirana, while it is more like you're going to throw the arrow in, try to get probably just try to focus the ET, make sure he doesn't get too much done with his stomps. You should be able to at least hold down the line in the ET no matter what, as long as these arenas are successfully going off. And I like the gyrocopter. While it's not the most physical damage, I want to say, it's going to get online just that little bit earlier, as well as you're always going to see the ET in vision. So if you just put the missile on him, he just has to stop playing Dota. He has to wait for the missile to connect. You can't really do anything about that. There's no matchup that can sort of fix that issue. So I like the gyrocopter. It gives them a little bit more vision, again, so that they can get those good Coliseums down.
All right. And someone, bit of a natural sort of BKB carrier. Obviously, there is some stuff on the Infamous side that gets through it, but a lot of that lockdown does get taken away if the gyrocopter can sort of pick that one up. So damage, durability, some setup, as you mentioned, he can sort of keep the ET at arm's length. So doing a little bit of everything that Furia presumably needs in this scenario. As we move into the final phase of the bans, Furia themselves going to be keying in on that carry position, the PA taken out early. Infamous, though, looking to the middle lane, the Kunkka going to be the first ban. We've seen that hero picked up really a couple of times by multiple different teams. Just really like the gyrocopter, giving you a little bit of everything you need: lockdown, durability, damage, a little bit of teamfight control in there as well. So Infamous, not too keen on having to deal with that, especially if the X were to set up again for the Mirana or the Mars with that spear or arrow play. So really just looking to cut that off as quickly as possible. That added synergy for Furia would be a little bit concerning.
As well as just having an advantageous matchup in the mid lane. I think yesterday we actually saw the Magnus sort of play it to his advantage, where I think he just ended up farming instead. He didn't actively play into the matchup. He really just hard focused on sort of ignoring the Kunkka as much as possible, because again, once you get caught up, once the Tidebringer gets a little bit too high, the harass starts coming through. You never want to start buying regen anymore. Can't really afford to buy yourself salves. You just would rather go back to base or just wait for runes at this point in Dota. There's really no point in ever playing that style of mid again. So hopefully now Magnus alone, he's just gonna have to get the farming, do whatever he wants. But now Infamous do have an interesting choice with Mag Axe already picked up. Of course, the carry pool has gotten thinned out pretty hard by Furia, but now if they really wanted to, you could slot that Axe into the carry position. You could move around the Magnus to the off lane, and this is why you draft this way when you have last pick, because you really want your opponents to keep guessing. Of course, I think Furia are pretty spot on with their final two bans here, but now Infamous, they do have to make the decision. Where does everybody want to go? I'm excited if it's Alone Magnus. Alone Magnus is one of his best heroes. It's one of those very cool playmaking heroes. But with this Leshrac pickup, Furia are definitely saying, we're going to play good standard Dota. We got a ranged hero versus your mid hero in the mid lane. We're going to have a decent Eul's timing. And Leshrac, one of the heroes that a lot of teams value, especially in those first phases, because again, that's your catalyst. That's your hero that's going to get towers pre 10 minutes. And if you ever sort of play a little bit too slow around the map, Leshrac is one of those heroes that is always super hard, super punishing for when you do sort of end up falling behind in the lanes. So I think now Infamous, they want to get one more strong laner in their lineup, want to get one more good tower defender. Right now they could really do with one more hero that's adept at sort of pushing out those lanes. Even though the Magnus fantastic, they don't really have a fantastic empower target yet. So I'm assuming that's what they're looking for right now. Whether or not we see, like, they could even go for a Jug, I think, if they really wanted to. But right now they want something that's going to feel good versus the gyrocopter and can be empowered, whether that could be the Jug, could be the Ursa. They got a lot of options still.
Whoa.
Okay, carry axe.
Yeah. Unless we're doing something very, very strange. No, it'll
Oh,
be
carry Magnus. Yeah.
well, very, very strange. Sort of describes that one perfectly, I guess. Alone on the puck, axe to the offlane, and yeah, as you said, the carry Magnus. That's not exactly what I would have sort of guessed looking at that lineup initially, but Infamous are willing to sort of throw us for a loop a little bit there with that choice, and that does present I would say maybe a slightly, I don't know if I want to say better, but at least different matchup in that middle lane, Puck versus Lesh now, instead of sending the Magnus there. So that does sort of mix things up a little bit. You talked about Alone's Magnus being one of his best heroes. He is still very much capable on that Puck as well. So should be some pretty interesting stuff on that Infamous side.
And I'm assuming the big reason, and of course, this is why you play for last pick. This is why you do this. But I'm assuming Lumiere going to be incredibly confident, incredibly comfortable on it when he ends up playing carry, or whenever he ends up getting the heroes that he typically wants. He is playing, or he's very adept at playing that initiator type of carry, whether it's the Sven or the Faceless Void. So I'm assuming the Magnus, it slots in really easily. You saw Arteezy doing this pretty much at the beginning of the patch. So it makes sense. I think there's probably a little bit of hesitancy as well, willingly sending the axe into that matchup versus the Shadow Demon, where I think as soon as you see the Shadow Demon, Infamous are probably valuing saying, if somebody's going to get saved, we're probably going to want to farm on a different hero. Let's pick up the Magnus. Oh, they picked Leshrac. Let's go for a more 50-50 matchup. And I think now, even though it does feel, let's say, a little bit more atypical, I don't think they have damage issues at all. I think with the supporting cast coming out from anyone or everyone on the Infamous side, I think they can really propel Lumiere forward. I don't think there's ever going to be a situation where nobody's dying in RP. I think they've got enough to back him up where they can probably get away with it this time around. Whereas some other lineups, you definitely see that safe lane Magnus sort of fall behind where he needs 5 items and then he can do something, or else his team is just sort of sitting there waiting behind him. But I like what they got going for him. It's definitely interesting. It definitely feels like an Infamous draft.
Yeah, we always sort of see something from these Infamous lineups, despite the fact that, you know, the roster isn't always exactly the same, but as a squad, they tend to balance it out quite nicely. They're willing to experiment here and there. They'll throw you a surprise hero. We mentioned earlier on that position 5 gyrocopter that they play so often, so they are willing to step out of the box to a certain extent, but they're still able to execute the meta, to probably put it the most bluntly. So we'll see what they can do with this. Meanwhile, for Furia, well, it just feels like ease of execution might sort of be on their side to a certain extent. You're going to have those stuns to set up. You have a nice sort of team fight play. So at the end of the day, I hate to say it, but we say it every time, it does come down to which team executes better, but I feel like Furia is going to have a relatively simple game plan here. But we'll have to see how it actually plays out, as we had a brief pause there for a slight DC, but we are back into the action, just setting up some early vision. Nobody looking to get too crazy, although we did see the early obs were dropped in the jungle there, so Michael was at least able to sort of make that trip over. Going to be able to keep an eye on some of those camps in case there's any rotations, and also in the case of Furia, trying to stack up some of those jungle camps. Get a little bit more for the gyro early. If Michael can disrupt that in any way, that could go a long way towards really just kind of keeping this gyrocopter contained.
And that's where the big focus for both of these fours is going to be in this game. You see them both starting with boots, meaning that they're always going to make that rotation pretty much every minute, going to try and stack up their camp as much as possible. And that's where who's going to get whose stacks is really going to be the big question of this game. And I think that's where you might want to give Infamous the slight edge here, just because Puck, he has that orb. He's going to be able to give you that little bit more vision to know for sure when you do inevitably get into that fight. Oh, Saker got a cheeky little bounty rune there underneath 3 heroes. That's cool.
Nicely done.
But the Puck is definitely a little bit more adept for getting that vision, scouting out those team fights than the Leshrac. Whereas the other side of that coin is that Lesh will be able to put a lot more pressure in those side lanes. He's going to be able to get a lot more of that guaranteed tower damage, just do Lesh things. But at the end of the day, it really is going to be the big focus on those stacks. Who's going to be able to contest them better? That's really where we're going to see those first early team fights, I think.
Not for a moment that Excel is going to be sticking around in the top lane, but he's just going for the spirit play. Tosses it out in the top lane, TP spot. It's going to fly all the way across the map. It should give him a nice little bit of damage here, but you're going up against a Mars, so you're going to be able to harass him a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be anything too massive. But a little bit of bonus damage, never mind. Not going to really get to hit. Sexy Fat hits him up with the rebuke instead, and it's a nifty play from A, but it doesn't quite work out the way he wants it to. But this is going to be an interesting lane to keep an eye on down bot. Sexy Fat and RDO And they've got some aggressive potential here. Maybe you want to wait until the Mars actually has the spear, but the rebuke in for the slow. RDO hits the arrow. They get the stun from the spear to follow it up, and that's going to be tough for these infamous heroes to survive across these first couple of minutes. So I don't think they need to be immediately wary of it, but it is something down the line that they need to keep an eye on.
And for the first wave, you actually saw Lumiere trying to tank the ranged creep, so that way RDO just doesn't get all these free ranged creeps for him and Sexy Fat. But there does get to a point where you sort of run out of regen. You can't always afford to make that play. And RDO, even just adjusting immediately, steps that little bit further back. And both Lumiere and A are like, yeah, I'm not going to tank a 4-second arrow. That does not sound ideal for me. Unfortunately, ET is pretty good versus versus the Mars, just because the rebuke does just very little damage if you are able to hit both heroes with that spear. You just have that little bit more armor to work with. But really, up until we see maybe level 2 or 3 on the Magnus and the Elder Titan, we're not going to see any aggression coming out from the Infamous side. It really is just dealing with the blows coming from both the Mirana and the Mars, to which Sexy Fat is going to be very happy. He's going to be able to get a lot of easy levels and a lot of easy farm. Really, the only threat on his life is whenever RDO does decide to rotate out of the lane to get those stacks going. And actually,
okay,
yeah,
wow. There's the exact combo, maybe not quite in the order I described previously, but it's in there. They get the slow from the rebuke, into the spear stun, into the arrow, and he does his best, obviously, but he's a level 2 Elder Titan. That's not a whole lot in the way of defensive capabilities, and Lumiere is holding points right now, so he didn't really have the skewer or anything of that nature to help out. So, nice play from Fúria. That's exactly the sort of combo that we want to see from this duo in the off lane. And they are able to sort of make it happen early on. Nice, just little combo play for first blood. Things going well in that lane.
Again?
Oh, wait, are they? Yeah, they are. They're going in again. Lumiere this time's the one who gets caught. That's... I think maybe he wishes he had a point up in that skewer now. Not sure if it would have saved him, but not having it pretty much doomed him. As Sexy Fat is in there for the stun. RDO is actually the one to grab the kill. He's gotten both of those kills so far. So a 2-0 Mirana in the first 3.5 minutes, but this is what you want. This is the level of activity you were hoping for when you picked this Mirana up, and now you see RDO making a bit of a trip into the jungle as well, dropping down the Ops Ward, and maybe in a position to rotate mid. The puck is already starting to shift away, though, so I don't really think they're going to have that opening, but even so, you get vision in a very important area here. These, well, not currently stacked, but potentially stacked camps will be under their watch for quite some time.
And something that is sort of just a theme of Dota, where if this bottom lane does really start to go to hell, it's going to be felt everywhere else, where now once the active runes really become available at 6-minute mark, that's when you are going to start to feel the strength of a winning lane, where suddenly RDO, he's stacking 24/7, but is now able to throw arrows every once in a while towards those runes, and if Lone ever gets caught by an arrow, he's just simply dead. That's just the puck. You can't really do much about it. I'm surprised he didn't go and arrow any creeps. Usually we see that ward placed because you get your sort of pick of the litter. I think he inevitably was able to arrow a satyr creep, but still, it is it's gonna feel pretty nice. He placed the ward a little bit deeper, and it's actually pretty smart because yesterday we saw Fleet put it up on the eye spot a little bit closer towards that medium camp, but now A's gonna whiff with the sentry, and really this bottom lane, it just doesn't feel fantastic because now Sexy Fat, he's got a full bracer, he's got boots, and Lumiere's wave is always just going to be up in his face, so he can easily get punished. So this bottom lane, of course, he's going to max in power, he's going to have that recovery time eventually, but this is definitely exactly what you want.
Lumiere, okay. In with the skewer, but I don't know. Where's the kill potential here? Hitting him up with a little bit of that bonus damage from the Spirit, but that's just a harassment play more than anything else. Weren't really going to be able to make that one happen, especially with RDO there to provide the backup. So, as you said, this one just kind of feels awkward. Lumiere is farming at an okay rate still. 27 last hits on the board, but it just feels like they don't really have the control in this lane that they may want. And now, if the warding continues in that south side jungle, Lumiere isn't necessarily even going to have that safety net to fall back on. Sure, the camps are still there. He can rotate over with the Empower when he needs to, but it's as if sort of Fúria sees this play coming and they're setting up to potentially jump in onto him when he does make that rotation. Speaking of rotations, Duster into the middle lane, looking to get onto Alone. They do hit him up with that disruption, but well, the Lesh is a little bit slow. on the timing there with the splitter. It's slightly impacted by the fact that Alone almost immediately got off his phase shift, I think, there after the disruption ended. So had to sort of change up the timing, ends up really not going for it at all, and Alone is able to jump away. But that's a, I would say, sort of decent play in from Furia. No, they don't get the kill, but Duster's just trying to rotate in, provide a little bit of pressure, and now you see Duster's actually going to get a little bit of experience in the middle lane while the Lesh rotates over. So Suits sort of hanging out in the jungle there, getting a little bit of farm for himself, now falling back to his own base. So trying to be as efficient as possible here on that Fúria Jovem side. It's working out so far, but in the bottom lane, that's not quite as efficient. Alone, realizing his opponent has left the lane, makes the rotation down bot. First Dream Coil of the match, and Sexy Fat that time was not able to get himself away. Now, Sacred. You're in some trouble here up top. Can't actually bring him down, though. And Mandy is trying to chase him, but needs a little bit more damage. They've got the help from the Leshrac in there with the slow from the Lightning Storm. Sacred, though, popping the taunt for the armor, but it's not going to be enough. Gets taken down by the Leshrac, and that's really just going to sort of even out that play. Offlaner's being traded out, and now the Possessed Mass, actually, being dropped for the Gyrocopter. That's a nice pickup. Going to make life a little bit easier for that Gyrocopter in terms of farming and just general survivability. Both sides at this stage starting to make some early rotations. Mostly, mostly from the supports on the Furious side, although Infamous did get Alone sort of moving around themselves. So it's going to look a little bit different for both sides, but the fact remains both teams trying to set the tempo early on, as Alone will return to that middle lane. Dreamcoil is back up in just a few seconds, so could look to make a play, and we do see Michael rotating his way over to that lane as well. So they could look to make something happen, but while they're doing that, RDO has made his way over onto the south side of the jungle as well. Oh, he actually just got clipped by the scan, so they do know somebody's in here, and I don't really think this play is going to work out the way they need it to.
Yeah, and really, they have such a good vision advantage over here. Now, the Leshrac is going to do Lesh things. Yeah, he's going to be really cheeky here with this Edict, but they don't have Glyph. They had already committed it before, so this is just a guaranteed kill and Alone.
Whoa.
Okay, that's a good reaction. But they just have complete control over here. I think finally is going to get dewarded by Michael, but set up for the deny. RDO is just on all cylinders right now, but they've done a fantastic job on maintaining this vision advantage in the Radiant jungle. That's why that smoke a little bit earlier on Alone was so sick. Michael was just very, very aware of where they could sort of find the loophole there, but still, they've done a very good job of setting themselves up for this mid tower. I do think they need to bring more. Yeah, whoa.
What's going on, boys? Everybody is gone except for Sacred, and I believe A is still in here? Yeah, he's still in here, but 8 DCs. That is not something that you see every day, but it looks like we are going to be getting them back in. I think the server may have just had some issues, perhaps. But hopefully we can get everybody back in quickly, although Alone actually just DC'd again. So not a perfect process, but it looks like everybody's sort of trickling back in as quickly as they can. That was quite something. Duster saying he's got 300 ping, so yeah, it looks like we've got a bit of a hiccup on the server side. RDO, not overly happy with the choice of server here for Game 1. That is something we should note while we're sort of in this pause. These two teams coming from sort of different countries in the South American region, so the server status is being split between those first two games. I believe, if I'm correct, Game 1 is on the Peruvian server, Game 2 will be played on the Brazilian one, and then if there is a Game 3, we will have a coin toss to determine server status for that match. So normally you would say, you know, you're playing on the Peruvian server, that gives an advantage to the Peruvian teams, but everybody is currently having trouble staying in the match, so yeah, it do be like that sometimes. But it looks like we've got just about everybody back in here, only missing Michael at this point. Don't really know about the ping situation just yet for the players, so that might still be an issue, but at least we're starting to get more people back in. That's always a step in the right direction.
And I type
okay, never mind.
To console for just a second there. It's funny because A actually has 1 ping.
What?
So he might be the strongest one. Him and Sacred both have 2 ping.
Wow.
So that's interesting. just in the backyard of the server, I suppose, where everyone's sitting around 80 to 300. But hopefully we'll get it resolved soon. I'm just glad the server didn't actually comp out because we did have to deal with some irrecoverable games that
Right.
one time, and that was not fun at all for anyone involved.
Mm-hmm. It's a nightmare on all sides. The players, us on the casting end, the production teams, the moderators, admins, everybody. Nobody likes when the server just straight up crashes on you. So here's hoping that everything's okay. We're playing musical chairs here at this point, though. People keep on sort of coming in and dropping out. It's like a revolving door in terms of connection status, but still better than having an 8T seed if we're looking at silver linings here. As Alone going to be getting himself back in. That leaves just Sooths on the outside looking in right now. Never mind. I really should wait like 5 seconds before saying people are back, as Alone's going to DC it once again. So, here's hoping that it all gets resolved pretty quickly. Meanwhile, as you mentioned, A and Sacred, no ping issues on their part. They're just sort of sitting here wondering, like, what's going on, guys? We're fine on our end. There's no issues here.
Yeah, it's just such a big country. Like honestly, it's just so variant, so variable depending on where you are. So it makes sense that there would be quite a few inconsistencies, especially if these players aren't all, side by side in some facility like the Alliance boys or something. But still, hopefully we can get them all back in here in just a few minutes. I'm guessing the reason Alone is just connecting and disconnecting over and over is he's trying to get that good ping. He's trying to make sure that he at least has below 150. Because again, you're playing Puck. I can't imagine
Oh,
playing Puck
God.
on 150 plus ping. That would just be like that'd just not be fun. I wouldn't want to do that. I'd probably just start feeding if I had to play like that. But we're almost there. Almost. Just one now.
Yeah, Sooths is back in. And Sooths is back out. I don't know. The players are reconnecting at a certain point. I don't know if any of them have tried, but this might call just for try a straight up relaunch of Dota at a certain stage, because some of these guys have made an attempt a half dozen times to get back in, looking for that ping to stabilize. Although we do have all 5 members of Infamous currently in, so that brings me to a weird and maybe sort of nerdy question, rules lawyer type stuff. Whose pause time does this possibly count against? Everyone on both teams disconnected, so I'm not entirely sure how you would fairly judge that. Maybe nobody is getting charged for their time at this point, although now that Infamous have everybody back in, maybe you start counting against Furia's time, but just weird places, weird questions to go to while we're sitting in this extended pause. Of course, I don't think we have to worry about any actual running out of pause time for quite a while. We'll wait to hear from an admin if that is actually the case, but now Fúria Jovem do have all their players back in. Let's hope the ping's under control. We see some scribbling on the map there from Lumiere, looking for the sort of delay between the drawing and the actual showing up on the map. So we see that a lot. Voice lines, also another one. People sort of spam those out just to see how much of an actual delay there is between pushing the button and actually hearing the audio. Just like that.
Yeah, and it is kind of funny because you see both mid laners disconnecting and reconnecting more so than any other player. Just
Right.
because they don't want to play in Ping, man. They just don't want to play in Ping. And actually, Sacred, that's his
Oh.
first DC.
Oh, no.
He felt left out. He felt left out, honestly, at this point. But hopefully, that's not a new issue.
I don't have any lag, guys. It's just everyone else is DCing, so I have to. Solidarity. What a good team player Sacred is.
And let's see if the G's will get dropped in just a moment here. But yeah, and it makes sense. Playing mid on ping is not fun. You can probably get away with it in most other positions, but mid it just probably feels terrible. But where were we? We got a sec?
Okay, hold on.
Thanks, guys.
Still
Thanks a
ping on the
lot.
Lesh, so Sooths is not quite there yet, but we are inching closer and closer to getting this one back up. So everybody's at least back in. Now we're dealing with some high ping on a couple of players. 190 for Shadow Demon. That's one, like you were saying before, the mid laner's not liking the ping. Maybe if you're the SD, you can sort of get away with that a little bit, but obviously if it takes another 30 seconds to a minute to try and sort that out, you're going to do that before you resume the match. But we do appear to be getting, as I said, closer to resuming the match. As I say that, though, there goes Duster. Going to be dropping on out of it, and there goes the Lesh alongside him. So, always a bit frustrating here, but again, we've all been there, right? You don't want to play when you've got that crazy ping, when you've got packet loss. So, as long as both sides are understanding about it, looks like they said they're going to try and restart their modem as well. So we are moving on to maybe slightly more drastic measures, but so long as it gets the job done, really.
Yeah, just in it for the long haul at this point,
Ooh, don't
and
say long haul.
well, as long as the players, I mean, I'm sure modems have gotten to the point where really it's just maybe 30 seconds, 15 seconds of it off, 15 seconds of it rebooting. I'm sure they'll be back more or less sooner than later,
Jeez.
but they've got a game to play. I mean, I just took a look at the net worth graph. Sacred is owning in his lane. He's got 1,000 net worth on top of the gyro. Talk about the game a little bit while we have got nothing else to do. And we haven't talked a whole bunch about the top lane just because there really has been no plays made up there, aside from that one rotation coming in from the Leshrac. But the bottom lane was really just where we needed to watch. But up at top, it's just been Sacred farming up, getting all of the stacks coming in from the line. I think he just farmed a 3-stack of Ancients and a 3-stack of the large camp. And it definitely shows. And once he gets this Blink Dagger, that's going to be scary. He's going to be able to make so many more plays and just play alongside his Puck, who honestly has kind of fallen behind the Lesh. A matchup that really you shouldn't be falling behind too far. It should just be a farm fest, but hopefully Alone is going to be able to get a little bit more done on the map, especially since the Leshrac, once he gets back, we're going to see that he has queued up those Boots of Travel. He's going for a little bit of a greedier build. He's not going immediately for that Yule Scepter to try and possibly counter out that Axe.
Thanks,
So
guys. Thanks a
really
lot.
we'll have to see if Alone can actually get something done, because he's not going nearly as greedy as his opponent mid laner is.
Yeah, but to his credit, he is going to have that Dream Coil to sort of play around with. So, as you were mentioning, if he's more active on the map, if he starts making some rotations, especially with Michael here to help him out with that lockdown, then he can maybe make up that net worth deficit just by trying to find some more pickoffs coming out of the laning stage. But the level of activity for Alone is definitely going to have to step up, and it looks like it's all sort of coming together for them, right? Alone's got the Dream Coil. Michael, obviously no Finger of Death, but he's getting close. He's got the lockdown to help, and the Axe is looking at Blink Vanguard in 10, 11 minutes, thereabouts, maybe slightly longer, depending on whether his support actually comes back to the lane or not to continue stacking those camps. But it feels like the timings for Infamous are starting to align just a little bit more here over the next couple of minutes. So we'll see how aggressive they look to get once they actually have some of those items and some of those abilities up and running. But over on the Furia side, well, you do have the arena up on Sexy Fat, but take a look at his progress towards the Blink Dagger. He's still about 2,000 away. So if he's in position at the start of the fight, sure, he can help out, but he's not going to have that same range of initiation that you'll have from the Axe or the Puck on the other side. So that may put Fúria Jovem in more of a defensive position as we sort of break past that 10-minute mark. So they're going to have to be a little bit more careful about that. Still need to find more farm for that Gyrocopter as well. So Amandi on the Gyro isn't exactly going to be rushing forward into any team fights anytime soon, but I do want to point out for him, he's gone for a bit of a different build than we saw from the Gyros yesterday. The maxed out Rocket Barrage, we saw a lot of Gyros putting really just one, or in some cases just straight up no points into that barrage early, focusing on the sort of flat cannon instead for the farming rate. So bit of a different style here for the Gyrocopter, but either way, as I said before, he's just going to be focusing on building himself up. He's not going to get active anytime soon, but going to have to be careful that rotations don't sort of come his way in that north side jungle.
And I wonder how sort of choreographed that play is with the build-up, just because at the same time, you take a look at Rodeo, who has been doing a fantastic job playing sort of ping-ponging between the Radiant jungle, bottom, and mid, and he really hasn't put any effort into stacking these Ancients, so I wonder how much sort of planning there does go into it, where the Gyro simply says, oh, I need to get Rocket Barrage, I need to put pressure on the Axe whenever he goes to creep cut, yet, so you can't stack the Ancients for him. I'm not going to be able to farm it. I wonder if there was that sort of discussion, because RDO definitely has had time to put that into his rotation and has instead favored focusing a little bit more on his own game, arrowing the enemy. Oh wow, 3 minutes pause
Ooh,
time
all
remaining.
right, well, there's
Okay.
the answer to that question I had before. It is counting against that Furious side. 3 minutes, though, that's a bit rough, but to be fair, this pause has been going on for quite some time. Still dealing with that ping as we do get Duster back into it. So at this point, they say that they're playing with ping, and obviously I'm not saying that that's not true, but if it comes down to running out of pause time, at least everyone is able to get back into the server. At that point, I think you might just have to play, or it could be all fine and we could go. Lesh still says he's working with 160 ping, but as we said before, you're starting to run out of time. So it does suck. It's incredibly unfortunate, but at a certain point, you have to sort of try and give it a go. We'll see if it clears up here as we are back into the match. So thank you, folks, for bearing with us during that pause. ET and I doing our best to desperately scramble for time, but we are back into the action.
And hey, you can't be too upset. You've got a full boots of travel now as soon as you reconnect to the game.
Mm-hmm.
So, and at least you're playing Lesh on 160 ping. You know, if you were playing, like I said, the puck, if you were playing an initiator, I would definitely be a little bit more annoyed. Plus, we get to see him sort of jaunt around. It definitely looks like he's lagging a little bit, but only makes it even cooler if he is able to pull off the win. And Leshrac, you press R and you run at them. It doesn't feel like there's going to be too much in the terms that lag is really going to affect your hero, especially when you're just going to be edicting up on these towers, which it looks like, yeah, he's going to rotate bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Probably going to try and claim that tower next. And it's actually a really smart play because they know that they don't have the glyph still. So if they do kill this mid tower, it just makes it so that that bottom defense will actually happen. But instead, playing around the fact that the enemy team doesn't have glyph in just a perfect manner. So now they're going to be able to get this bottom tower for free, the sort of supplemental tower of Dota. Everybody claims that tower more or less around this time, pretty much every game. And then they make the collapse towards mid. So now we'll have to see if this arena is going to sort of be the be-all, end-all. Because if they can get a good arena down mid, they are going to immediately kill the tower after they take a successful team fight. So that's where Infamous, they really got to be careful here with how they engage.
Spear going to fly, not quite on the mark, but they're able to hit up A anyway with that purse. They take the tower down in the middle of that engagement, not even bothering to wait until the fight's over, as A gets taken down and the tower will fall, and Fúria Jovem, that just swung quite a bit of gold into their favor. It cracked 2K for a brief moment. You see it sort of flirting with that milestone here and there, but big plays. Tier 1 bot taken down, Tier 1 mid gone, a quick and easy kill onto the ET. Really no danger to anyone on that Fúria side, so this is what you want. This is what you were hoping for with this Leshrac. The ability to apply that early map control and pressure. Infamous have really nothing that comes even remotely close to matching up directly with that kind of pushing power, and it's going to shrink the map for them. Lumiere is at least still farming up relatively well. Echo Saber picked up earlier on. He's working his way towards the Blink, so realizing he is going to play pretty significantly into his team's teamfight plan. It's Duster and RDO. Well, for a moment there, it looked like they wanted to go in, but they spot out the movement from the entirety of the rest of Infamous. They tried to get away, but that's not going to work out. Duster will be sacrificed. At least RDO is able to make his way out of that one. So it's only going to be the Shadow Demon that they lose, but that is some unfortunate movement for them. They're just kind of lucky that they spotted out the rest of the Infamous rotation before anyone else moved into the area, but a solid response from Infamous to get that kill, although now you've brought 5 heroes to the bottom lane, and you're sort of losing a little bit of efficiency here as they all sort of make their way back across the map. But they're at least able to find the kill. They remove any threat whatsoever of a jump in onto Lumiere, as he will continue to farm towards that Blink. And they're just going to have to sort of, to a certain extent, bide their time, wait out the early pushes from the Leshrac, and see what they can do, maybe closer to the mid-game stage.
And that was your Blink reveal on Sacred, so it's slightly unfortunate that you don't have that Shadow Demon, but that's something that Infamous's lineup, once they have it online, they have so many initiators. They have, well, technically 4 initiators once everybody sort of gets online, ET being the only one who's sort of unable to go in, but again, that's your more or less your counter initiation. than your actual initiation. And once they get to that point, you take a look at these heroes. You already have the blink on the axe. Alone probably going to go for the boots of travel, but blink being built on both Lumiere and on Michael. And then once you have those items, that's where Furia, they've only got one save, they only have one disruption. That's where all of the pressure is going to be on Sexy Fat to get those arenas to sort of start the party. And he's finished up a blink dagger of his own. So I think that's really where we're going to see the big clash, where if Mars is able to get those big arenas down, force these heroes that don't have those BKBs built up just yet, that's where they can get a very successful, very dominating team fight going for Furia. But these little pickoff plays, they're going to start to add up.
Oh,
Nice
Duster.
save.
Okay, not gone just yet. There's going to be the disruption. Sacred blinking in for the stun, though, and okay. Figure of Death out for Michael will finish the kill, but now Sacred gets trapped up in the arena. The Spear Stun's going to be there. Sexy Fat blinking forward to get the rebuke down onto Michael as well, so both Michael and Sacred get picked off. And at this point, they're trying to chase for more. I don't really know if they're going to be able to catch anyone. Sexy Fat has the blink up in a few more seconds, so maybe they can track down the puck here. They do have the homing missile on him. He's going to dodge it with the phase shift. Is that enough time for Sexy Fat to blink into position, though? Oh, yes, it is. He's in there. He gets the rebuke down. The spear will come through, pinning to the tree. Where's his teammates, though? Everybody sort of assumed that he wasn't going to be able to hit that play, so they start breaking off, and that is unfortunate. That's a missed opportunity. If they had continued following the whole way through, I think they could have gotten the kill onto Alone there, but not able to make it happen. They're still sort of chasing, though. Duster and RDO are going to at least go look
trapped.
And they catch him out. They do get that purge down, but the orb is going to still get Alone away. The problem is now he's just stuck in the trees. That's an unfortunate death. Alone does get taken down, but Sacred wants revenge, blinking in for the taunt, but RDO's going to get sort of saved there. Duster comes in, but Lumiere wants into the fight, skewering his way forward. He's looking for the RP. Doesn't want to throw it down just yet, but while he's waiting, his teammate actually gets picked off. Sexy Fat's in there. They've got suits in for the damage as well as A will fall. Sacred now isolated from any teammates. He's going to go for the taunt, trying to buy some time for himself, but it really doesn't look like it's going to be enough. He tried to go for the ult there, hoping for the move speed bonus, I think, but he's dead before he could actually get that bonus applied to him. So, Furia, I mean, that was looking kind of weird at first. They find a couple of kills in the middle lane. We thought maybe they had missed out on their opportunity to kill Alone, but they continue to chase, and Infamous kind of take the bait, but now they're the ones springing the trap as they jump in onto Suits. That's a little bit too far away from his teammates, kind of assuming he was safe after winning the previous fight, but they hit him up with the Dream Coil. The Skewer is there to snap that coil as well, and a little bit overconfident there from the Leshrac. Yes, you won a couple of fights in a row, but your backup isn't exactly in a position to actually, back you up. And he gets picked off pretty easily.
And that's where, now that you have so many initiators actually sort of being there now on the Infamous side, they've got 3 blink daggers, they want to smoke up. I think Michael is the only one, he has still 100 gold away, but they need to be careful. That all started off because I think Alone just went a little bit too early on the Shadow Demon. He had already used the coil way back when, before that big runabout where he was trying to escape from all those heroes. But if they can just get their team fight spells off, if they can they want to be fast, they want to be touch and go, they want to be in and out.
Lumiere, oh my god!
Skewer.
He got absolutely everyone. Okay, no, he didn't get RDO because he leaped away, but that's still the RP down onto about 3 or 4. They're looking for the follow-up damage though, but they haven't actually taken anyone down, and now, oh boy. Sacred's dead, A's gone down as well. It's all gone to hell. Lumiere, I mean, that's a massive play. It's just, there wasn't enough afterwards. The follow-up damage just did not exist. And they end up losing 3, and now it might just be 4. Michael's going to get clipped by the spear there, and he will be taken down. I can't believe that. Lumiere, that is a, in 99% of situations, that is a fight-winning play right off the bat, and it just falls completely and totally flat.
And it's just the timing. If they had the splitter, it was, I think, 6 or 7 seconds off cooldown, but Lumiere saw it. He saw his opportunity. They knew that they didn't have the coil yet. Can you imagine if they got a 4-man coil into a 4-man break? They just went a little bit too early with their staggered spells. They thought that a blink dagger would be enough on Lumiere after that quick kill in the left top, but again, they need to be a little bit better at valuing what they need to actually expend to kill these heroes, because they make a few more mistakes like that, that was more time that the Jarok just continues to farm. He's got a full Sanj and Yasha, I think, or at least just a Sanj on his hero now. He's going to continue to get tankier and tankier, and I thought they had enough damage, but they need their spells. If they don't have all of their spells whenever those fights do initially break out, again, unless Lumiere has a lot of items, he is not going to be your carry. He is not going to be your, I'm going to RP 3 heroes and right-click them 4 times and they're all going to die. You don't have that type of hero on your team. You have this Magnus, and that play was great. That play was amazing, but still, now you have to be so careful with how you go moving forward.
Just feels like at this point, Lumiere is kind of more of a 3 mag than a 1. As you mentioned, he just doesn't really have that sort of lockdown damage, and he's not immediately building towards it either. The BKB is actually what he's queued up here, so that is going to help in terms of longer-term durability in these fights. It's going to make it easier to hit those sort of skewer and RP plays, but it's not going to do a whole lot in terms of having him be that primary damage dealer. And you look at the other heroes as well, no sort of Witchblade, no burst damage out from Alone, nothing of that sort, at least not yet. And of course the Axe, I mean, you don't really expect him to build straight up damage. He's going for the Blade Mail, that's certainly going to be helpful, but you were really looking at this Magnus to be the guy in terms of doing raw sort of physical damage, and Lumiere doesn't have it right now, but sure, he can build his way towards it, but we're nearly 20 minutes in. They're already trailing by 6,000 net worth, and Furia still have a Leshrac who's going to be able to push down those towers even further if they're not able to mount a significant defense. So there is still time to catch up, obviously, but the time and the opportunities, the openings they have available are starting to get maybe a little bit less prevalent. They're trying something here, though. Sacred. Does he make this play? They do have all of their ults back up, but feels a little bit risky for them. They didn't quite have full vision on anyone other than the Mars, so they decided to play it safe, but while they do so, okay, Mandy's going to go straight into the Roche Pit. This seems a little risky on their part, but no response as of yet from Infamous. No response, really.
You do need to be a little bit cautious here because, and you see that they want to force them to come meet them bottom, and this is smart from Infamous because, again, I think they're now valuing that they are on the back foot. They need to wait for their BKBs. They need to wait because right now, who they're jumping isn't dying. They don't have the levels on their heroes.
Oh.
Yeah, Age is going to go down for free.
Yeah, there's the Arena into the Spear, into the Arrow. Quick and easy setup from that duo as they do find the kill, but they're going to go looking for a little bit more. Sacred, I don't know if Sexy Fat could... Oh, okay, he's going to blink forward. Cancels Sacred's blink and manages to hit him up with the Spear. RDO, though, well, he's going to wait for the arrow. Throws out the Yule Scepter first. The stun will be there, though. Into the Splitter now from Seuss as well. Sacred might as well have taken his hands off the keyboard. You're not allowed to play Dota in that fight. RDO gets the kill, and I mean, Fúria Jovem just keep on pushing their way forward. They're finding so many of these pickoffs. They've got triple the kill count of their opponents right now at 15-5, and it's just amazing how well they've played this one out. They have the advantage in terms of pushing power. They're out-farming their opponents. They're out-killing their opponents, and the Gyro really hasn't needed to get involved outside of when he wants to. You haven't been able to force him into any sort of engagement through the first 20 minutes, and now, speaking of engagements, yeah, Michael's in some trouble here. They're going to lock him down. They get the Spear stun in onto A as well, so both of the supports get picked, and just right on cue. Furia, they want to kill, they find a kill. It really feels like it's just that easy for them.
Yeah, and that's where Infamous, it feels like they definitely missed their timing just a little bit. They're so low level on both the Lion and the Elder Titan, they don't really give that secondary supplemental damage, and that's why you see Alone, he's starting to play in those side lanes, he's trying to put more pressure on those creeps, but now you've got the Leshrac, you've got that person to play really just counter to you, and he'll always TP to those fights and immediately push down your buildings, and that's where this Leshrac hero feels punishing, where you suddenly try to take a fight and
Sacred, that, he's not dead yet. Okay, never mind, he's dead now. Arena dropped down, but Lumiere actually got out of it in time, so he's going to be able to avoid that. A now comes in with the stomp, throwing out the ult there as well for a little bit of damage, but that's really just a distraction, trying to keep those enemy heroes away from his own lineup as they do manage to pull back to the base, but without Sacred. But Lumiere's in, RP onto 2. They actually hit him up, though, with the disruption, so he's not able to immediately dish out the damage, but his teammates were there. Sexy Fat will be taken down. The Aegis now gets burned away. Do they have any follow-up, though? They need another skewer. They do have it. They're going to pull the Leshrac all the way in onto the tier 4s. No BKB for that Lesh, so he is just completely isolated, trapped inside of his opponent's base, and that was just about perfect. I mean, Sacred goes down, you have to sacrifice A as well, but Aegis is gone, you get kills onto 2 cores, and there's no semblance of a high ground push there from Furia. Signs of life finally from this infamous lineup.
And that could have been so bad. It's crazy that Duster was actually able to get the disruption off mid-skewer. If he got the disruption right then and there, then he just would have had to pop BKB and immediately run away. But instead, Lumiere, again, he just threads the needle. He finds the exact play that he needs for his team. And again, killing that Leshrac, killing him twice, it's so important. But Vision, it's already set up. They aren't able to get it out just in time.
Artio just feeling himself here, 5-0-12 on this Mirana. We were talking about him so much in the early stages, first 5 to 10 minutes, about how active he was. That level of activity has maybe dropped off slightly, but the efficiency you're getting out of this Mirana is still absolutely fantastic. He's not the end-all, be-all playmaker anymore, but pickoffs like that one. Yule's arrow, Michael gets taken down. The Lion has zero way to defend himself in that scenario, as he really is reliant on that Blink Dagger, so those kind of pickoffs are really just going to keep Infamous down just that little bit more. Furia trying to sort of keep that pressure on, and now actually it's Infamous who are going to look to apply a little bit of pressure here, bringing multiple heroes down to the bottom lane, and if your Sooth's on this Lesh, I don't know if you want to chase quite so hard here. The Moonlight Shadow is going to protect him a little bit, but yeah, that's actually, it's the scan from Furia that spots out Lumiere, but yeah, that's not going to work out. Pops the BKB, TP's out. That's another charge taken away from him at least, but not quite the kill opportunity that the Leshrac had been hoping for. But at least he frees up a pretty sizable amount of space here. Southside jungle and the entirety of the bottom lane sort of his to work with at the moment, while his teammates smoke up and look for the kill. They're going to jump in. They spotted out Sacred, hitting him up with the spear stun. Leo coming in with the call down as well. The homing missile is actually applied onto Michael rather than the axe, but they don't actually need that lockdown onto Sacred. They hit him up with the purge instead, and yeah, Sacred just could not go anywhere. He was forced to stand and fight, and he does get taken down. Mandy finds the kill, and now Furia, they want to go for the, oh god, for the tower. Michael, I don't think they knew exactly where he was. He sort of reveals himself there with the Earth Spike, but it's not actually going to hurt him. Nobody on Furia really wanted to dive that far forward, so Michael gets to live, but Sacred does get taken down there. I suppose if you're looking for a silver lining for Infamous, the Tier 2 tower doesn't really get hit up in that scenario, so you're at least holding on to those objectives for now, but Furia Jovem just keep on finding these pickoffs over and over again.
And his game really has been the one to suffer the most. We're not seeing this axe where you get that Manta style, you get that Ag Shard, you get that Blade Mail, and then suddenly you're a threat to every hero on the map, where instead he's really sort of had to shrink down. He can't really do very consistent damage because, again, he's playing versus that Shadow Demon, and without a BKB, there's just nothing. There's no play he can do. He's always going to get his call sort of ruined. That's a good spirit. Stop the Blink Dagger from Sexy Fatfoot.
Sacred jumps in. He got the taunt in onto the Shadow Demon. Can they blow him up in time? Yes, they can. Lumiere now in with the RP onto 2. They've got a hell of a lot of damage to work with here as they're taking down the Gyrocopter, able to hit him with the dunk. Sacred picking up the double kill. They want more. Triple kill now as they'll drop Sooths as well, but their own heroes starting to fall by the wayside too. Alone taken down. Sacred fell. Michael's finished off, so Lumiere now falling back with A, but at this point, without the RP, he's not quite as dangerous, and yeah, unfortunately for him, Furia realize it, but Lumiere does get the skewer off, has that extended range thanks to that talent, so he pulls them all the way into the base, but at this point, Artio and Sexy Fat really going to make their opponents work for this one, and this is actually a fight that they may straight up win. Michael is going to try and get in there, though, with the Finger of Death. That will really drop Sexy Fat low. Is it going to be enough for the kill, though? Yes, it is. Lumiere blinks in, gets the kill. Now they want it onto Artio, locking down that Mirana with the skewer. Artio, though, does throw down a little bit of magic damage, but it's not enough. He had about 75 HP, and that urn actually was still taking him down a little bit, but he will survive. An Infamous, I mean, it's a pretty heavy cost that they pay there, but they do win the fight, and they will finally sort of dip into that deficit. I think they cut off about 2 or 3k with that teamfight win.
And fortunately, those 3 kills earlier on Sacred, being able to get a little bit of gold into that axe, that must feel really nice. And again, you're defending your tier 2 tower here. They sort of take the focus away from their buildings. They're able to find the jump actually in the jungle. I'm sort of surprised how poorly that fight went for Furia, considering they had the high ground advantage, they had the vision advantage, and they even were able to land an arrow on Alone, I think. That's the reason he died, is sort of in the middle of everything there. I don't think he was expecting anything and didn't have his BKB just yet. But now we are sort of barreling towards this situation where now Lumiere has a Daedalus. He's going to work towards probably that AC. He's only got a Hyperstone queued up, but once he gets these items, now heroes are going to start to die in those RPs. And we don't see anyone make the shift over towards those Aeon Discs just yet, where that is the counter. You're a Magnus. You're never going to buy a Nullifier on that hero. And that's where the true counter could definitely be felt. But everyone on Furia, they're still in mode. We are ahead. We don't need to worry about that just yet. We can get away with greedier items. And that's where the punish could definitely come. And they're actually set up on top a little bit here, but take a look at Lumiere. He's just cutting all of the waves here. He's just completely set up for this play.
Yeah, he's going to make sure there's no push coming. And meanwhile, something worth noting for Infamous, Alone now working with that BKB. Managed to finish it off just a moment or two ago. So you mentioned in that last fight, a large part of the reason why Infamous sort of lost a couple of extra heroes there was because the puck gets clipped by that arrow. This time, as long as he doesn't forget that he has a BKB, he should be safe from that kind of lockdown. So Infamous are really starting to hit their stride here, which I know it sounds weird to say considering they're still down nearly 10,000, but the timings are starting to come together and they're confident. Look at this. They're just going to smoke themselves into the river. Who do they catch? They're in onto the gyro. That's a huge play for them, but there's going to be that defensive disruption buying a little bit of time. Lumiere, no, he whiffed!
No.
He goes too early in with the RP. He's going to try to skewer himself out, hoping to bail out of this play, but at this point, it's all gone wrong. 3 dead already. They're going to lose Lumiere as well. Alone is now desperately trying to run. He does dodge out the spear, but the rebuke is still there, and the lightning storm in from Zeus will finish him off. That was terrible. I mean, Duster literally just won that fight for his team. That disruption changed everything. The RP whiffs in its entirety, and your gyrocopter just comes out of that disruption and just starts dishing out the damage.
And sure, maybe if you're Infamous, you're assuming that we are smoked, they shouldn't be able to react that fast, we should be able to get the play, but they really just did not expect Duster's positioning at all. And then just not having the right timing on that RP, I still think it's a pretty suspicious RP anyway, just because you are trying to kill a gyrocopter who still has 4 seconds left on his BKB, but they can't do that. Infamous, they've got so many initiators, they need to break up the fight just a little bit more. They can't just all in on one target the way they did. Otherwise, again, they just run out of gas in the tank, they run out of damage, they run out of everything. And even now, Furia, they just split off. They're able to kill Roche and get the mid-racks for really nothing. There's no threat on them, and there's still no glyph for another, what, 10, I think, what, 20 seconds? So now this is going to be more permanent damage. Even though Leo does need to be a little bit careful, don't let his mana get too low. It just feels like now, what do? Oh, Michael.
Michael's going to get hit up, and yeah, that doesn't really do him much good. He did have the shard there for the magic immunity, but it doesn't protect against the physical damage as Michael falls, and now that's the second lane of Rack's gone. Just really feels like this one is completely falling apart, but okay. Dream Coil out into the top from Sacred. They're going to try and turn this one around. The Stomp coming through, but there's going to be the double BKBs coming out. Sexy Fat, though, still low on HP. They're going to try and heal him up with the Urn here. Even the Moonlight Shadow being popped, but Lumiere doesn't want to let him go. He comes in with that Shockwave. Not going to pop the Skewer just yet, but what in the world? He actually skewered into an arrow, but they will still find the kill. Duster gets taken down, but once again, I mean, Duster, he's a vet. He's a position 5 player. He knows what he's doing. He'll sacrifice himself every single time. Roshan, 2 lanes of racks, even a kill there onto Michael as a sort of parting shot, and if he's the only one who dies, Furia really don't care.
Yeah, and I mean, a Dendy teammater, played with the super meta himself, probably picked up a lot over there, but really now just barreling towards, I think, sort of the end game here. They've only got 1 tier 2 tower left, and if you're Infamous, again, you need to split up these fights. You need to go on 2 or 3 targets at the same time. I'm really surprised at how they're using their spells. They're not able to get any team fight going in their favor. I think really they're playing so sort of knee-jerky and reactively where they could really get vision, get wards, play around their side of the map, and then wait for Furia to come, because Furia are definitely going to walk into you with a lead. They're definitely going to go after your towers with less gyro. but instead they keep on trying to take these sort of sketchy plays. And while it worked twice out of just the fantastic plays coming in from Lumiere, it just feels like everything that's sort of been a whiff from him has been devastating for their team. There's absolutely nothing that they can do if he's not hitting those big RPs, and that's a massive problem. They need to start breaking up these fights, and maybe once Sacred has this BKB, he can jump with a little bit more confidence. He's not going to get disrupted anymore. It's going to be the person that they're trying to kill, but again, they need to find the Shadow Demon. They need to find this Mirana. They need to get on this backline, but if they don't, I think that really the game is just going to start to look like it's over, because right now they've got the damage. They're just not holding anyone down.
Right. And it's a bit of a weird situation. It's almost exactly the opposite of what they had sort of been hoping for. The RP is a pretty massive cooldown, and so the hope was having Alone on the puck, putting Sacred on the axe, that's going to give you those people who can keep that initiation up at a high level even when the RP isn't available. Instead, as you said, they're playing it very strangely. Things like the taunt, things like the Dream Coil are only being used in conjunction with the RP. So instead of using them to sort of keep the aggression up, they're going all in on one play like this one, but this one might just work out. They're going to blow up the Gyrocopter right away. There's that Aegis down for the count. Can they get him again, though? Lumiere, oh no! The arrow's actually going to stun him up. That's going to lead Texacat into the arena and the Spear stun, and that's... He had BKB, he just didn't think he was going to need it. Look at the tips coming out. Yeah, RDO, I think he just won his team the game with that Spear.
Yeah, and that's it.
Oh boy.
It's just... Lumiere, you didn't BKB the arrow, my man. You saw it coming. You saw it coming. Let's call that lag. Call that pain.
Yeah, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that one, but no BKB means no protection from the stun, means Furia go in and they close it out with one furious team fight to close things out. They take the match, and they're up 1-0 now in this best-of-3 series. That looked pretty impressive for them. Obviously not perfect. Still some things execution-wise that they could probably touch up on in terms of their timing, but I mentioned sort of heading into the game itself, it felt like they had a lineup that was going to be easier to sort of execute the game plan, and we saw it play out exactly in that fashion. Infamous, on the other hand, just looking a little bit weird. Like they didn't quite get the synergy and the timings down with their own abilities.
Yeah, and I think that Sacred definitely was very stubborn. I think he, when the team fights stopped going their way, he really took a step back and started farming a lot more. Whereas I think he could have maybe gone for maybe 1 or 2 more team fights, maybe another smoke play. They just had this sick timing where they had 4 blink daggers. They were able to really do whatever they wanted at that point. And Fúria Jovem were giving them the opportunity. At that point, the Gyro still didn't want to show up to fights. It was still a 4v5 if Infamous wanted to force it. But instead, again, they just played around the Shadow Demon, I think, really sort of shockingly poorly. They didn't really, I think, respect the disruption as much as they should have. I think if you force Duster to disrupt himself, that is the perfect situation. He's out of the fight. He has effectively stunned himself for 4 seconds. There's nothing that he can do at that point. And then all you need to worry about is the Yule Scepter from Artie on the Mirana and the arena. And while you don't have BKBs for that Blink Dagger timing, you should feel strong enough, you should feel confident enough in your own play that if you put 5 ultimates on a hero and disruptions out of the mix, someone should die. Whereas every single time it felt like they had 1 or 2 misplays with their spells, and then Lumiere would claw it back with a fantastic play, and that's just way too much pressure to put on one player. And then it is kind of sad at the end of the game, you simply don't BKB an arrow, so you don't get the play, you don't get the easy RP skewer onto the Gyro into your fountain. What can you do? Yeah, I think now, going forward, Infamous, they just need to play Dota that I know that they could play. I know that execution-wise, they play at a much higher level than what was exhibited here. I think they were just caught in a really strange game. And something that I think the support duo, again, they play with each other so much, but A and Michael, they really suffered in this game. I don't think they really were able to do anything. I mean, they were level 8 and level 10, I think, at 20 minutes into this game. They were really struggling to make anything happen.
Yeah, it feels like, obviously you like the Lion. It's, I think, the most banned hero in recent times in this patch, but it felt like even with the Lion in his hands, Michael wasn't able to play that usual sort of aggressive style that we expect from him, which is especially dangerous considering RDO on the other side of the matchup played that role to perfection. So Michael on your Lion is getting picked off pretty consistently. He doesn't get the chance to really have much of an impact, and then we repeatedly talked about some of the issues with the teamfight execution for them. So really just compounding issues for that Infamous lineup. And as you said, we know that they're capable of more than this. We know that they can play at a much higher level, execute at a higher level as well. So we'll have to see if they can pull that off in game 2. But this first match really did not necessarily showcase their synergy to the extent that they needed it to.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we are going to be jumping into a little bit of a break here before we get that second game started. Before we go, though, quick word from one of the sponsors for this event. We are thanking LootBet at the current moment in time. Thank you to LootBet for providing us the odds and the overlays for all of these matches. In case you're unaware, LootBet is running a promotion for the Pro Series 7. You can get a 100% bonus on your first deposit for new users up to €200 with code PRO. That is PRO. You can click on the LootBet banner down below the video player or visit bts.gg/LootBet to take advantage of that offer. So thank you very much to LootBet. Appreciate you providing those odds for us and sponsoring this event. Be sure to check them out, and we will be hopping into a bit of a commercial break here. So when we return, Game 2 between Infamous and Furia. We'll see if Furia can get that 2-0 sweep and lock down their spot in the main event, or if Infamous can fight back and push this one to a full 3 games. So stick around. We'll see you all in just a little bit.